Welcome back to the Week in Gaming. This is patreon.com/the Derrick Lamon Experience, your one-stop shop for your gaming news. So I have to do this over, unfortunately, because the original file got messed up, and I'm pretty upset about that. So there's quite a few things that I wanted to go ahead and cover. I'm gonna start really quickly with your PlayStation Plus games of the month. It looks like we will have Lost Records. Um, I'm sorry. Lost Records Bloom and Rage Tape 2 is available. Hogwarts Legacy, PS4 and PS5 edition. EA Sports PGA Tour. Blueprints and Battlefield 1 are all available if you are a PlayStation Plus member. So go ahead, even if you're not necessarily going to play them, but maybe you're thinking about it, you don't know, go ahead, go to PlayStation Plus, add those to your library. Maybe someday it'll be a rainy day, or maybe the release schedule will get really, really low and you need something to play. Perfect time to jump in and play some of those games. There were some Call of Duty remasters that apparently have been, Jesus, where was I? Um, they've been rated in Australia, so apparently these games are coming soon. This comes from GameSpot.com. Re-releases of the original Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and 3 look to be coming, as ratings for cross-gen editions of MW2 and MW3 have appeared online thanks to an Australian classification board. Via Insider Gaming, each game predictably received Australia's MA15 Plus rating. They were classified on April 3rd, with Modern Warfare 2 specifically being mentioned as being a PS5 cross-gen edition. The Modern Warfare 3 entry doesn't mention PS5 specifically, but is listed as being cross-gen as well. No other details about the games were revealed, aside from them coming from Activision Blizzard and a production date of 2025. While it wasn't explicitly clarified or confirmed that these two titles and the re-releases or remasters of the original Modern Warfare 2 and 3 from 2009, as well as 2011, the fact that each game listing uses the numbers 2 and 3 as opposed to the Modern Warfare reboots, Roman numerals, does point towards these being new versions of the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era titles. Now, this certainly seems to indicate re-releases of MW2 and MW3 in the same vein of 2016's Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered. This could be coming sooner rather than later, although nothing has been officially announced. A February report from Xbox Era, and later corroborated by Insider Gaming, indicated MW2 will be joining Xbox Game Pass in March or April of this year, but that has not yet come to pass. It's worth noting that both the multiplayer and campaign of Modern Warfare 2 have already been remade, though they aren't available together as a complete package. A remastered version of Modern Warfare 2 campaign was released in 2020 without the multiplayer. However, 2023's Modern Warfare 3 feature remakes of all the original MW2's multiplayer maps, work that could potentially be used in the remaster. In other Call of Duty news, Black Ops 6 recently released its Season 3 content update, one that coincided with the return of the original Warzone map, Verdansk. So if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. They say March or April. I was saying when I initially saw this that I thought that these may be shown off at the Xbox Game Show this summer, as in now they're doing it in conjunction with Bethesda, since they acquired Bethesda, and Activision Blizzard, since they acquired them. So, um, excuse me, but apparently they could be coming sooner than that. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. If I hear anything, I'll most certainly let everybody know. Where are we at? Apparently, Titanfall 3. This is the biggest one. Leakers who have been known to corroborate things in the past have stated that Titanfall 3 is pretty much almost complete and coming. This comes from Insider Gaming. Leak has a campaign, multiplayer, and Apex Legends content. A Titanfall 3 sequel is one of the most requested and wanted follow-ups on the planet. A recent leak suggested the once-thought canceled project is back on track, but now a fresh report indicates Titanfall 3 is actually nearly complete. It hurts getting your hopes up just to be let down, so take this latest development with all the salt and a single pinch can hold. We've all been here before with Titanfall 3, and it was widely reported by an ex-developer that Titanfall 3 was in development for 10 months before being canceled. We recently heard whispers and rumors that Titanfall 3 might still be in development and heading for 2026. Fast forward to April 9th, and a new report claims that not only does the game exist, but the Titanfall 2 successor is almost finished at this point. Ex-leaker El Salvador claims Titanfall 3 is almost complete and has described many features to expect from the new shooter. The source is considered a reliable Apex Legend leaker, making ties and connections to the Titanfall franchise logical and promising. This leaker has said on Titanfall 3 and potential content, quote, Unreal Engine 5 is the engine. It's almost complete. There's a single-player campaign, a live service with battle passes, which makes all the sense in the world if there is Apex Legends content. Main mode is Extraction. Other modes, TDM, Control, Arenas, all Titanfall 2 classic modes. Some returning Apex characters. There's also a weather system. Apparently, this is all huge news, and we're struggling to contain our excitement too. Titanfall 2's campaign was legendary and easily one of the best in first-person shooter history. The multiplayer content arguably outshone the single-player adventure, and it shows how strong the game was. If we can get all this along with the cool Apex Legends crossover, then we might be back. Here's the thing. I wasn't big. I had the first Titanfall. I didn't get Titanfall 2. People do a really bad game of selling me on games. And they're like, no, we should totally play this as a crew. And then I'm like, so what's the story? I remember with Destiny, I was like, oh, you guys took me. Like, you kind of took me. I didn't understand that this game was going to be this, and you didn't describe it. And for me, I'm sorry. Like, a lot of people are like, why do you need that? Like, I need some substance. I need a story. I need to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. You just stick me in a world like Destiny. They're like, well, there's a story, but there's not a story. I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. In the first Titanfall. Now, the second Titanfall did come with a campaign and all that, but I didn't play it because I was just kind of turned off by the first one. I don't even know what the hell that game is. I'm pretty sure it got traded in for store credit or something along the way. I don't know, but hey, it is what it is, man. I don't know. If this game is coming, though, shout out to all the Titanfall players. I know you guys were pretty pissed off when you found out that the third one was in development and then you didn't get it. So the same I say about people who want that Metroid Prime trilogy, and they say every year at the Nintendo Direct around what used to be E3 time, this is the year that we get it, and it doesn't happen. And they say every year about some other game, this is the year where we get it, and it doesn't happen. Or people hype themselves up like, yeah, Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake are coming to Xbox this year, and it doesn't happen. Tread lightly, guys. That's all I can say. Because every year you guys go into the summer game season with these expectations, and every year you're let down. So I would tell you, again, temper your expectations. Do I not believe this game is coming? I wouldn't say that at all. I think it definitely has a chance of, coming out. The issue is, though, until you know something, don't get yourself all hyped up and then be disappointed. Okay? I don't know. I don't know. I try to go in with an open mind to every show. Everybody's like, what do you want to see? And I'm just like, the last time I made predictions, it actually happened. I was just amped because some Resident Evil 2 merch had leaked, and I was like, as long as I see Resident Evil 2 remake, I'm happy. And it happened that weekend, and I was very, very happy. So, we'll see. I don't have any predictions for gaming this year because everything's up in the air. Obviously, the Trump tariffs are heavily impacting the Nintendo Switch 2, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but pre-orders I'm recording this on Wednesday, April 9th. Pre-orders for the US and Canada were supposed to go live this morning, and unfortunately they did not. So at this point, I'm thinking June 5th, may have to request that day off, may have to save up some money and then camp out somewhere. It's really looking like that, which is crazy because this has never happened in modern console releases because we're used to pre-orders, but we've also we were under the Trump administration with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S launch, but the tariffs weren't a thing. And now they've spun the block and let this guy back in the office, and here we are sitting in the midst of this absolute nonsense. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Anyway, in other news, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered has released on PC, and unfortunately it is not performing well at all. It did get patched, I believe, earlier today, but when it launched on the 3rd of April, it was not good. Last of Us Part 1 made it to PC in somewhat disastrous fashion, though later upgrades it did improve the game substantially. Today marks the release of The Last of Us Part 2. Again, this was on April 3rd, and we were interested to see whether porting specialist Nixes were able to deliver a better experience on launch and how many legacy issues remain. Part 2 certainly makes more positive first impression without the extreme issues that caused us to recommend against buying the first game on launch, but there are still some technical continuities here that drag the package down. Nixes came in late to the port's development to add in their own fixes, which are evident, but some things are still taken wholesale from the previous port handled by Iron Galaxy. Great example in the game's options menu, which looks to sport a different look but tactically delivers the same mix of settings as the previous port, with some new additions including DLSS, frame generation, and dynamic resolution scaling, the latter from Nix's libraries. As with the prior game, there are plenty of tweakables here, but there's minimal scaling above and beyond the capabilities of the PlayStation 5 release. Screen space shadows and contact shadows are some of the new notable additions here and do provide a small bump to visuals, helped by the higher overall image quality allowed on the PC platform by running at arbitrary resolutions. The Last of Us Part 2 is almost uniquely demanding in terms of the amount of GPU horsepower required to equal the PlayStation 5 version. In comparison to other releases that have targeted both PS5 and PC, the official system requirements suggest an RTX 3060 for 1080p 60 frames gameplay. These medium settings correspond to graphics that are worse in many ways than that of the PlayStation 4 release. For example, SSR exhibits full-size cross-hatching not found in the PS4 release, and there are similar visual downgrades for flashlight bounce lighting, subsurface scattering, and more. If we instead adopt PS4 equivalent settings, you might be surprised what level of GPU horsepower are required to simply double the frame rate of 30 frames per second PS4 release. The RTX 3060 falls below 60 frames in many scenes, despite the GPU ostensibly having 12.74 teraflops of theoretical compute and 360 gigs of bandwidth, just versus 1.84 teraflops and 176 gigs on PS4. Even ignoring flopflation and dual issue FP32 on Ampere GPUs, we're looking at a GPU that has 3.5 times the level of compute, even its non-boosted clocks, which is a huge outlier relative to other ports, and users have to adjust their expectations accordingly. This also applies to the CPU side of things, though things have at least improved versus TLOU Part 1. Nixes has changed how streaming is done by using direct storage CPU decompression with a different compression format, as well as preventing the engine from spin locking CPU threads, which is a huge no-no on Windows. That means the CPU is not faltering as often in P2, but this is still what we consider to be a CPU intensive game. The game did get patched. I will tell you that. Let's see. Looks like it got patched yesterday. The first update of The Last of Us Part. This is from comicbook.com, by the way. First update for The Last of Us Part 2 remastered on PC has gone live today following its release this past week. Compared to The Last of Us Part 1's release on PC, the arrival of the sequel on the platform has come about with far fewer errors. Still, some bugs have been present for players, which resulted in developer Nixes now pushing out its first hotfix. Downloadable now update version 1.0.10407.714 for The Last of Us Part 2 remastered on PC isn't too massive. The patch mainly looks to resolve 4 different problems that have been found in the game to this point. 2 of these errors were tied to game crashes, while the others are related to upscaling and mouse input. Moving forward, more updates for TLOU are said to be coming to PC, but Nixes and Naughty Dog don't yet have a timeline for when these patches will drop. Until that time, full patch notes are: mouse input change to improve detection of subtle aiming movements. Upscale sharpness slider now gives improved control over sharpening. Fixed a crash that could occur when playing at 1440p resolutions with volumetric quality set to medium. Fixed a crash that could occur while erratically moving the mouse in the menu before starting a new game. So if you did buy that on PC, go ahead and update that patch. Download that patch for the updates. I know it's got to suck. People always ask me, you have a PC, do you play any of these Sony games on your PC? And it's like, no, because I already played them on my PlayStation. I would play them if they had a separate list of achievements on PC. Now, the thing is, Epic Game Store, some games have little achievements, and on Steam, some games have achievements as well. So maybe someday, there's actually quite a few. I think there's like 4 PlayStation games that are sitting on my wish list between Epic Game Store and Steam right now. And they do have those achievements. Am I in a rush? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm a console guy first. And 9 times out of 10, the game, when it launches on console, isn't going to have too many issues. Some games do need to be patched. I'm not going to say it never happens. The PC ports, though, I don't know if it's Nixes. I don't know what the issue is. But they're just not performing well. But apparently there was somebody else who was involved in this, and Nixes came in like very late on the project. So I don't know if that could play a factor. I don't know what's going on. It's something they need to figure out. Also, with this whole new Xbox that has been the topic of conversation until Nintendo came out last week with the Switch 2, where this Xbox is going to run Steam, which means that if you've bought PlayStation games via Steam, then you can play PlayStation games on Xbox hardware. I don't think Sony's going to take that line down, so I'm going to tell you guys this. If you want to play PlayStation first-party exclusives day and date, I don't see that happening on PC. There's still going to be that time frame of the window going from console exclusive to PC. And number two, if they're coming out like this at the beginning, that's not exactly great either. So what you might want to do is just get a PlayStation and play the game there first. That's all I'm saying. If you're just like, I hate console and I'm a PC guy, do what you got to do, friend. Do what you got to do. I'm always going to err on the side of caution. First party studios get the new tech first. So those PlayStation studios got the PlayStation 5 dev kits first and the PlayStation 5 Pro dev kits first. So I'm going to choose the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro. Same with Xbox first party exclusives, although some of them for whatever reason run better on PlayStation hardware, which is crazy. But I'm going to err on the side of the caution and play it on the console first. That's just the way I am. My PC is used for some gaming, but more often than not, it's used for recording and editing and things like that. So, I don't know. As far as what's going to happen going forward with the Nintendo Switch 2, I know that's been a topic of conversation. Number one, I want to say that I made the mistake of reporting on a $90 physical game price last week. Apparently, that is not true. Let me be the first to say I apologize. I shouldn't have commented without concrete evidence. So it's going to be variable pricing per Doug Bowser. They're going to look at certain games and look at the development time and things like that and how much they put into it. And then they'll decide what the price tag is going to be. All right. As of right now, if nothing changes, the Switch by itself is $449.99, and the Mario Kart World bundle is going to be $499.99. Mario Kart World, if you buy it separately, is $80. So the bundle is the better offer because you're going to save about $30. Now, there's all these questions about Nintendo moving production to the United States because of the Trump tariffs. This comes from Polygon.com. How quickly could Nintendo move Switch 2 production to the U.S.? No stupid questions. If Nintendo wanted to avoid any hefty tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump, how quickly could it move Switch 2 production to the U.S.? Trump has done a partial walk back on the tariffs already, but let's get hypothetical here. 90-day pause on tariffs. However, China, he's like, take it up another notch. He took it up to 125%. So we're not in the clear yet. Short answer is that it would take a lot more time than you'd think. The long answer is the same reason why every major hardware manufacturer that heavily relies on factories outside the U.S., like Apple, has been scrambling to find alternative solutions. Quote, such a move would take years, New York University Stern School of Business Economics professor Joseph Foudy told Polygon. Nintendo will have to set up a final assembly factory in the U.S., which means finding land, building a facility, and recruiting a workforce. According to the Financial Times, Nintendo currently manufactures more than half of its hardware in Vietnam and Cambodia, and the rest is in China. Foxconn is in China. Foxconn has been known to put the consoles together for Nintendo as well as Sony, maybe even Microsoft. Foxconn has been known to be the manufacturer for iPhones and other phones and things like that. So the minute he started talking about tariffs on China, I'm like, this is going to cause a problem for a lot of people because most of everything that we get is manufactured elsewhere. It's not manufactured in the U.S. And don't let people tell you this. Buy American, buy American. Almost like most timber does not come from the United States of America. It comes from other countries around the world. All right? So don't let people fool you. The shoes on your feet, if they're Nikes, they definitely come from around the world. All right? Don't let these people fool you. Where were we at? I'm sorry. A move to the U.S. for assembling Switch 2 units will require importing all the custom parts and paying the tariffs anyway. A lot of people in tech businesses, people who build PCs for people for a living, they've been contacted by their, their partners and say, hey, these prices are going up. This is happening everywhere. All right? Elections have consequences. Point blank, period. On top of that, Nintendo would have to shell out for the higher cost of labor in the U.S. If Apple were to do this, the cost to make an iPhone could nearly double, according to Bank of America analysts. Thank God I just recently got a new phone. The only way for Nintendo to completely avoid the tariffs would be to set up an even more factories in the US to make each and every part of the Switch 2 in the States, stretching the timeline out even further. By way of example, Apple has faced increased costs and risks due to its reliance on China dating back to the first Trump administration, and is taking years to even move a fraction of its production to places like Vietnam and India, Foudy said. That's also when Nintendo moves some of its Switch production away from China and into Vietnam and Cambodia. A 6-year-old decision might be the only way Nintendo can sidestep the staggering 125% tariff on Chinese imports that went into effect on Wednesday, April 9th. Further, centralizing Switch 2 production in those countries could minimize the impact on Wednesday. Trump dropped every country's tariffs except China's down to 10% for the next 90 days. If nothing changes, the tariffs on both Vietnam and Cambodia could shoot back up to some of the highest costs when they're reinstated. Nintendo's best hope is that these other locations strike at least a partial trade deal with the administration, or that the industry as a whole receives an exemption, Foudy said. It's impossible to guess the chances of either. None of this, of course, is good news for those of us who wince at the $450 price tag for the Switch 2. Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser said the tariffs did not factor into the price. Again, they showed the Switch off Wednesday the 2nd. The tariffs were imposed. I think we got no news that the pre-order would be delayed on Friday the 4th. And then I want to say yesterday or so, we got news that the Canadian pre-orders were also going to be delayed. CEO of research firm DFC Intelligence suspects they did and predicts that there will be no price increase when pre-orders eventually go live. If he's wrong or Trump reverses his decision on the 90-day pause, the Switch 2's price might be closer to $600. Analysts told Reuters last week that an iPhone could cost 30% to 40% more if Apple were to pass on the increased cost to end consumers. How quickly could Nintendo switch to production to the U.S.? So long that it's not going to do that, at least not before the handheld launches in June. Nobody, not even Nintendo, can escape Trump's tariffs. Nintendo, like a lot of manufacturers, is a ship in a storm that is struggling not to get hit by a big wave as best as it can, but has little control over its fate. That's the long and short of it. That is the long and short of it. So during the Nintendo Treehouse Lives, I think they were the day after the Switch 2 reveal, a lot of people jumped in the chat saying, drop the price, drop the price, drop the price. Because inevitably we all looked at this situation like this. You're coming to market with two first-party launch titles, right? And they're not even really, they're staggered. Mario Kart World, and I'm trying to think of what else first-party is coming. Donkey Kong is coming in July, though. It's coming a month later. Alright? Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. However, we just found out earlier upon research, Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition will be available day one. They make no note of Breath of the Wild 2 Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition being available day one. And that is absolutely insane. That makes no sense to me. Why is only one when both games are readily available? Then we come to find out that, well, when you buy the physical version of those games, it's not the red Switch 2 card, it's the black Switch 1 card. And then there's a download code to upgrade. If you have Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, you do not have to pay for the upgrades. We've been told that they're about $10. The Zelda games I've been told are $10. Now, Zelda Notes is on the Nintendo Today app, and that's the only way to get achievements. And I believe that's locked behind the Switch 2 edition upgrade. This is all just a absolute disgusting situation. And they did have a lot of third-party support, let me be honest. We did find out later on that DLSS is part of the architecture. It's an NVIDIA custom chip. We don't know how old the tech is. We don't know if it's older NVIDIA tech or if it's new NVIDIA tech, but there will be DLSS on the Switch 2. So that did come out to be true. How good is it? I don't know. I will tell you this. When I watched certain clips of the Treehouse Live, they showed Breath of the Wild running side by side on the Switch 2 and the original Switch, and it did look better on the Switch 2. The frames were better as well. Same with Tears of the Kingdom. $10 upgrade fee, I'm not mad about that, because it's no different than what we do over on PlayStation. But I just don't know. Number one, I don't know if we're going to get, like, the United States, we're in a precarious position. So the console might be here on the 5th, but people are going to have to pay up front. So Engadget says Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders everything you need to know about prices, delays, and more. The new console will be widely available starting June 5th, but U.S. pre-orders, of course, have been delayed. If you haven't already heard, Switch 2 pre-orders remain indefinitely delayed in the US and Canada, while folks in the UK are able to pre-order for the new console, while stocks last, of course. Americans will have to wait for their time to shine in response to new tariffs announced by President Donald Trump shortly after the last Nintendo Direct presentation. The company delayed Switch 2 pre-orders in the US. Canadians will also have to wait, as Nintendo has also indefinitely delayed pre-orders in that country as well, according to a report from Mobile Syrup and confirmed by Walmart of Canada via post on X. According to a statement Nintendo provided to Engadget, quote, pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 in the U.S. will not start on April 9th, 2025 in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions. Nintendo will update timing at a later date. The launch date of June 5th of 2025 is unchanged. President Trump recently announced a 90-day pause on steep reciprocal tariffs affecting 75 countries, but also announced that the tariff imposed by China will go up to 125%. Again, it's still unclear what this could mean for the Switch 2 pre-orders and pricing. We do know this. Nintendo started moving some of its Switch console manufacturing to Vietnam in 2019, which we covered. There's some fine print attached to pre-ordering directly from Nintendo. According to the pre-order page on Nintendo's site, you must be 18 years or older, sign in with your Nintendo account, and register your interest in pre-ordering. You'll be sent an invitation email when it's time to play your pre-order. An invitation will be valid for 72 hours, and then there's this bit of info. Invitation emails will be prioritized on a first-come, first-served basis to registrants who have purchased a Nintendo Switch Online membership with a minimum of 12 months of paid membership and a minimum of 50 total gameplay hours as of April 2nd of 2025. That's not me. I did have a Nintendo Online membership, but I did not play 50 total hours of gameplay on there. I'm not going to lie. I barely touched that online suite. This seems to mean those who have paid for Switch Online in the recent and those who have spent a good amount of time playing Switch games as of late will get first pick at buying a Switch 2. There's no telling if the same restrictions will apply if you want pre-order from the third-party retailers. We knew from the teaser trailer for the Switch 2 Nintendo's hardware would be bigger and would have a new approach to the detachable Joy-Cons. New Joy-Con 2 have a new C button, mouse controls, and built-in gyroscope for tilt control. The console has a built-in mic to support a new feature called Game Chat that will let you communicate with friends in-game. The device is indeed a bit larger with a 7.9-inch LCD screen that supports 120Hz refresh rate, HDR, and 1080p resolution. That's in handheld. When docked, you'll be able to play it up to 4K on your TV, and Nintendo says it improved console's internal speakers as well. The new dock also has a built-in fan to keep the console cool and help maintain performance during long play sessions. Switch 2 has dual USB-C ports for charging, and the base storage amount has increased to 256 gigs. The Switch 2 storage can be expanded like the previous model, but it will only work with newer micro SD express cards. Switch 2 has a number of accessories you'll be able to purchase separately as well, including the new Switch 2 camera for $50, a new Switch 2 Pro controller for $80, an extra pair of Joy-Con controllers for $90, a Joy-Con 2 charging grip for $35, and more. However, considering the question of new tariffs, it's unclear if those accessory prices will change before customers can actually get the gear. You can pre-order the Switch 2 from Nintendo, Amazon, Walmart, GameStop, Best Buy, and Target. Generally, I go with Amazon. You get to just basically buy Amazon cards and pay the balance down until the release date, so more than likely that's where I'll be going as well. The Nintendo Switch 2 Virtual Tour, whatever the hell it's called, should be a pack-in game. Apparently Nintendo looked at it and said, no, this is a good tutorial and blah 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 blah, and $10 is not an exorbitant price. Keep in mind, Astro's Playroom, which is basically a fully fledged game that shows off the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller and the hardware, is free. It is installed on every PlayStation 5 you buy. I got my launch PlayStation 5, Astro's Playroom was there. I got my PlayStation 5 Pro, Astro's Playroom was there. So for Nintendo to say $10 is not an exorbitant price, no, it's not. You're absolutely right. But this should have been a pack-in title. Apparently, Reggie Fils-Aimé had to fight for them to include Wii Sports in the original Wii. Probably one of the best decisions ever, because people geeked out. Like, those of us who really, really play games wanted to play Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, wanted to play New Super Mario Bros. And all that. But your grandmas and people who are not gamers and people who just went to parties and was like, what is this thing you're swinging around? Oh, this is the new Nintendo. It's Wii Sports that hooked those people. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. So for them to be like, no, $10 is not an exorbitant price. Again, it isn't an exorbitant price, but this is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. This should have been a pack-in title. Now, as far as the paltry first-party lineup for the launch of the Switch, a lot of questions were made. Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, everybody kept saying that was going to get ported. Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD are two of the only really big Wii U titles that did not get ported over to the Switch. We thought they were definitely coming. Now, Switch 2 GameCube release does not rule out the HD port. Of course, they mentioned that with the Switch 2, if you have a Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, GameCube is coming, but it's only available on the Switch 2, which is crazy. That controller only works with GameCube Classics. We just found that out today. So if you want to play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with it, you're out of luck. That's not going to work. Imagine making a controller that's only going to work. It's just like Nintendo wants to sell nostalgia to you. Everybody's had their turn in the sun, though, with this stuff. This is Sony with the PlayStation 3. This is Microsoft with the Xbox One in 2013. It's Nintendo's turn in the sun. It's like that James Franco meme where he's got the noose around his neck and there's like another guy up there and he's like, first time, huh? Like, it's just your turn. It's your turn. I'm not calling Nintendo greedy. I just think it's very interesting that the company that always builds themselves on, we value the family, and Nintendo's a family first company, this, that, and the third. You didn't think about these families, and I get it. It is a better product. You're 100% right. But giving us a 2-month pre-order window, I think companies need to stop doing that. They showed off the PlayStation 5 Pro in September, and the pre-orders went up a week later, and the console was out November 7th. 2 months for a $700 console is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. This one's a bit different, but at the same time, give us a little room. But they did the same thing with the first Switch. Showed it in January, pre-orders went live, console was out in March. So it's like you're only getting about a 2-month window on these pre-orders. Same happened with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S as well. Now, as far as Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, last week Nintendo confirmed Legend of Zelda Wind Waker would be sailing onto the Switch 2 as part of the GameCube library launch. If you're worried this might rule out the Wii U HD version of the game making a return one day, it seems there's still hope. Tim Geddes of Kinda Funny Games spoke to Nintendo of America's Senior Vice President of Product Development, Nate Bildorf, and was informed all options are still on the table. Here's what he had to say to VGC. Getty says, I also got to sit down with Nate and got to ask a whole bunch of questions, and in typical Nintendo fashion, we didn't get too many answers. I did ask if having the Wind Waker on Nintendo Switch Online precludes it from the Switch 2 getting the actual Wii U port at some point, and he was very quick to say no, all options are on the table. So there you go. There's still a chance we might get this game in some way or form of a standalone release later down the line. Geddes also acknowledges how there are already examples of games available on Switch Online that you can obtain in other ways. Obviously, nothing's confirmed one way or another, but there are many examples of games that are on Nintendo Switch Online, and you can get them in a different way, whether it's a remake or the same port version or whatever it is. Essentially, it was never say never. So again, finding out in the small print that the Nintendo Switch 2 GameCube controller does not play anything but the GameCube classics on Nintendo Switch Online is kind of fucking crazy. Like, not being able to play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with this controller is it should be just absolutely illegal. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. So, I don't know. I watched that Treehouse Live. I was not impressed by Donkey Kong Bonanza, so I definitely won't be picking that up. Mario Kart World, it looks good, but at the same time, is it worth $80? I don't think so. I just don't see it. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I just don't see it. And this is all absolutely crazy. So then we find out that a lot of the Switch 1 games, it's like, oh, it's backward compatible. And we find out a lot of the Switch 1 games are having issues running on the Switch 2. Like, this is really, really interesting. So, I don't know what's going to happen with this console. We're at a very interesting point, obviously, and it's crazy. The last time there was a major console launch back in 2020, we were at a very interesting point as well. Elections have consequences. And I think that The country as a whole is starting to really understand that. They really are. So, I don't know. There's a lot to love about the Nintendo Switch 2, don't get me wrong, but there are also some things that make me cringe, and it's like, maybe you don't do that. Maybe you don't do that. And games at 80, jumping from 70 to 80, depending on what they feel. It's like, yeah, we'll assess it. Yeah, you in the fucking boardroom. You guys can sit in there and be like, that blue really shines. It's $80. Like, this is absolutely insane. So, the closer we get, more news, when more news comes in, I will obviously keep you guys updated, but the closer we get to the actual release date, I'm worried. I'm absolutely worried. That Mario Kart World bundle, that's limited time and limited stock only. And that's a way you can save $30 because you don't have to buy the game separately. You buy the console and then have to buy the game separately, that's a $30 increase on your wallet. And right now, that's without the tariffs. We don't know what's going to happen. All we know is that you can pre-order in the UK, but we can't here in the United States nor Canada. It's a very, very crazy time. But the funny thing is, the minute I heard about the tariffs months ago, I'm like, this is going to be a problem considering we got new Nintendo hardware coming sometime next year. And holy shit, was I right. And I hate the fact that I'm right about this, but I kind of saw this all coming. Everybody just saying, just build it over here. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. The amount of goods and services that are manufactured actually in the U.S. that are used on a daily basis, you'd be surprised. Most of it comes from foreign land. Most of it definitely comes from foreign land. So, I don't know. I don't know. This is all just crazy. We don't know what the final price is going to be. Nintendo's trying to justify the game prices based on, development time and this, that, and the third. And it's like, buddy, nobody's buying this. Absolutely nobody is buying this. So, I don't know. What's in the box for the Nintendo Switch 2? Of course, the Switch 2. 2 Joy-Cons. Joy-Con straps, which I never use those when I play it on my Switch. You also get the Switch 2 Joy-Con grip, of course. That one doesn't charge. There is a charging one that's available for the $35. The camera does not come with the unit. You can buy the camera for $50. There is a Piranha Plant camera where the Piranha Plant's mouth closes and covers up the actual camera. It's not an official Nintendo camera, but it's actually less. And aesthetically, I think it will look cooler than the fucking regular Nintendo Switch 2 camera. So if I was actually going to get the camera, I would make a play for the Piranha Plant one. It also comes with a high-speed HDMI cable, which makes it capable of hitting 4K. I don't know. I just don't know. This is very, very interesting. And all that talk also, I want to point out all that talk about, no, it's on base with it's probably the same as the PlayStation 5. It's not. It's not at all. It's on base with the PlayStation 4. And not the 4 Pro. We're talking the base launch PlayStation 4. So if you're thinking you're going to get all these third-party games to run and look great on this hardware, I got to tell you, it's not going to happen. I'm going to continue to play Cyberpunk 2077 on PlayStation 5 Pro. Right? Just saying. A lot of those third-party games, no. First-party games will shine on Nintendo hardware because they always look great on Nintendo hardware. Your developers are the first to get the development kits for your new console. So it's going to look great for Nintendo games. For a lot of those third-party games, I'm not so sure. I'm just being completely honest with you guys. This is going to be very, very interesting. So, I mean, here we are. Some of the games from the Switch 1 don't run or are having issues running on the thing. We're up to the point where some games are going to be $70 and some games are going to be $80. We have the tariffs to worry about. At this point, if Nintendo just pushed it back to the holiday season, I wouldn't be too mad. But I don't want a crazy price increase either. Let me be very fucking clear about that. So, I don't know. That's all the time I got for you guys today. I'm going to go ahead and put this to bed. I mean, it's like I end everything else. Believe in yourself first and foremost, because if you don't believe in yourself, of course, nobody else will believe in you. As always, my name is Derrick. And then it's my time. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.